Hello and welcome to another Win Daily Sports Show. My name is Michael. I got my man Sia and here with me. I have my mustache, and we are here talking Week 9 against the spread, going through every single game. We got a couple COVID games. Some stuff's popping up. Sia and I are going to cover all of that for you. At first, of course, windailysports.com/chat. Make sure to go there. 7 free days in the expert Discord chat. We can give you everything that you need. We're grinding PGA right after this. We're talking NFL. Seems like incessantly, 24/7. It's been a lot of fun. Make sure to follow us at Win Daily Sports. Make sure to follow Sia and at Sia and Make sure to follow me at Michael Brazil 1. And don't forget about the NFL Season Pass. Everything on the site, $79.99. Everything through the Super Bowl. You can't beat that. Sia, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Hey, does that include the betting package? That's a real question.
It does not include the betting package, unfortunately.
Gotcha. All right.
But
because I feel like because we're so DFS heavy, I feel like a lot of people don't even know about the betting thing, and it's
true.
Crazy good. I mean, that $79.99 like can get paid for in like 2.5 hours after one college game at noon.
Yes. Or if everybody just listened to me and you took all the favorites pretty much today in soccer. I hit a 14 parlay. It was kind of a joke. I forgot that it even was happening. One, I think I got it at plus. It was funny because there was a team in there at minus 1,600, another at like minus 500, another at like minus 600. And there was one team that I think was like minus 180. And that was Austin's play. Austin said, make sure you take Dortmund, throw them in a parlay. He's very confident in them. I almost added Chelsea too. Now, none of these teams mean anything to me. I know Christian Pulisic is American. That's about as much as I know about soccer. Turns out it's pretty damn easy. So we appreciate you, Austin, for that. The soccer team has been crushing it. We had another family member make a lot of money today. But you're right, Sia. That betting membership gets paid for very, very quickly if you just pay attention to what Capper Steve's doing. Or you could do what I do. You pay attention to everything he's doing. You take all his bets. You win all that money. And then you take that money and you just put them on more fun bets because you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're actually just having fun with it. So it's kind of the way I
like that approach. And,
right.
And by the way, that I have friends that I guess are members now because they're texting me, plays from the soccer guy, not Austin, but how am I forgetting his name?
Rich.
Right, Rich Masana.
Oh, Rich, I hope you're not watching.
I know that was embarrassing for me. But the point is, I think they rolled with some of his plays and those hit today too. So it's kind of cool. Yep. Like we got them firing from everywhere. But hey, by the way, I heard there's something else going on today.
Yes, Maction.
That's what it
Maction
is.
is back.
6 games.
Mm-hmm. I think that might be. I think we might just get 6 games every Wednesday moving forward for like the next 6 weeks. I'm not 100% sure. I could just be making that up. I think I'm actually just trying to speak that into existence. I've heard a lot of people talking about speaking things into existence the last couple of days, but I'm just trying to speak that into existence. How cool would it be if every single Wednesday we just had 6 college football games on?
Yeah, but we're on like during the action, if you will.
I know, actually, that's kind of sad. I feel bad. We're gonna take. Man, we're just what?
Oh yeah, because everybody's going to be watching.
Because everybody's going to be watching. Come on, dude. We've been doing this. But we are here. We are talking NFL Week 9. As I said, I have my mustache. We are ready to go. And we do have some interesting games. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And we have some COVID stuff. Some real interesting ones, too. So I'm ready if you are, Sia. I think we can just hop right into it. We have this Thursday night game. Packers and the 49ers. Packers opened at -6. It's now up to -7. Have pretty much 80% of the money. Almost 70% of the bets. The 49ers are missing their entire team at this point. They just put Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, and Deebo Samuels. Not that I thought Deebo Samuels was going to play anyway. They all got put on the COVID list. We know Jimmy G's out. We know Greg Kittle's out. George Kittle, he's out for a couple weeks. I mean, I honestly don't know. Mostert's been out. Jeff Wilson's on the IR. I guess Jerick McKinnon's legs are still a little tired from those runs he had 4 weeks ago. How is this game only -7, especially with that much action going in on the Packers right now?
Yeah, it's funny because it had kicked down to 5.5 yesterday, and I was actually on Deep Dive Fantasy Football podcast yesterday with Brandon, our friend who came on the Win Daily Show. Yeah, it's actually his podcast. So I don't know that he put it on Twitter, but the reason I bring that up is because I was talking about the Niners in an upset. I was saying, we all think we know everything about these teams already, but I just kind of trust Kyle Shanahan, and I don't know that I trust the Green Bay Packers, and I think we could see an upset here. But now there's no way I can pick an upset. I mean, it's like. For 4 quarters, one thing I will say, what is the total in this game? What's the over-under? It's 49.5. Oh, I would absolutely hammer the under there because the one thing the Niners have going for them is a defense that's getting healthier and healthier. And what they do and what they tried to do against Seattle somewhat successfully for a majority of the game was keep everything underneath. This cloud coverage, like kind of like a safe, not a prevent type play, but I don't know that the Packers are going to be able to just move the ball downfield super quick. And I'm positive I am absolutely positive that Kyle will be working his run scheme. Whether it's probably be JaMychal Hasty, a little bit of McKinnon, and whoever they might bring up from the practice squad, who will probably have like 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I was going to say, you or me at this point. I mean, I feel like we could run behind that scheme. It's been ridiculous.
But I mean, it's going to be like a full, Ross Dwelly, maybe Jordan Reed, Trent Taylor. Like they are going to have to keep the passes like 10 yards and in. They're going to have to try to run on first and second down. And so I actually love, I know we're not talking totals necessarily, but I love the under here. It looks like it's down to 48.5, which totally makes sense. To me, this would be, and I hate to start the show with this, Michael, because it's kind of like that sucker bet I always talk about, but a Packers tease with the under makes so much sense here, because you're getting, let's say you do a 7-point tease, or let's say you do 6.5. So you get that line down to a half a point, but then you kick it up to 55. Which is actually, you kick it up to 56 and take the under. I like that play, but I agree with what I think you're going to say, which is at this point, as much as I like Kyle Shanahan, I got to go with the Packers here.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult. One thing I will say, and I don't think I buried the lead, but the Packers don't have a healthy running back at this point either. So like, as much as it's very, very confusing, I think it's going to be really difficult for the 49ers to score, but I think they're going to do it. Honestly, if it wasn't for everybody then getting put on the COVID list to like yesterday and today, I 100% would have been on the 49ers. The 49ers played the Packers twice last year, and they made them look stupid. So I think that is still very much in play. Probably not going to put any money on it, but +7, even though I don't think the 49ers are going to be able to score that much, we just saw Dalvin Cook and a useless Kirk Cousins just run all over them. And I mean, it's pretty much the same run scheme. I mean, we'll need Nick or Stobie. Maybe you know a little bit about it to tell us exactly how that works, but I still would probably lean to 49ers +7. I wouldn't be surprised if that starts to tick up a little bit too. So if that gets over 7, if that gets to 7.5, hey man, it might be worth a little sprinkle.
It'll probably get to 7.5, but the one thing that's a little worrisome, I'm talking about the Niners kind of scaling back the offensive playbook. Well, Trent Williams is out too, like you just said. So it's, you got your left tackle out, when, I don't know, it's just, it's going to be tough for them to survive over 4 quarters with Mullins back there as well. So, I mean, but to your point, it's just Dexter Williams and Tyler Ervin back in the backfield, but you got a healthy Devontae Adams. Yeah. Alan Lazard might come back, probably not. So you got Marcus Valdez-Scantling and a bunch of guys, Shepard, Tanyan. That's probably enough. I don't like this line at 7, but to your point, if it's 7.5 or 8, I'd probably lean the Niners. But honestly, I like the tease more than anything. I hate to say it.
Yeah. You hate teases too. You hate them, but you always have one every week, and that's what I appreciate about you, Sia. That's what I appreciate about you.
Yeah, it's fair. I don't usually bet the teases. I sometimes suggest them on this show, but normally I'm just going straight up, and that ends up working for me. So
hey, you've been doing your thing, and we appreciate the heck out of you. If anybody out there has some questions, make sure to ask us. We already got S-Guy in the chat. Appreciate you, Joe. I remembered your name this time. He was asking me earlier about the golf cheat sheet, which is out now. If you're listening to this on the podcast or if you're watching us live, the golf cheat sheet is up. I put that up. So, Joe, check that out. Everybody else, go check that out. Let's win some money. Let's get primed. Let's get tuned for the Masters coming up next week. Nice. But as you said, this is going to be a weird game. I'm going to watch it because it's on. But, I mean, it might get a little ugly, but I still wouldn't be surprised. I think Kyle Shanahan just has Matt LaFleur's number. I know it was only 2 games last year, but they were ugly. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I know that he has his number. I don't think Matt LaFleur has... I don't think he's given any indication that he's a good coach. I'm not saying like Anthony Lynn status, but I'm just saying like,
already. It's not even 10 minutes, dude.
Well, I'm on a high from winning money on Anthony Lynn for like forever weeks in a row. I mean, it's absurd at this point. So so I don't think LaFleur. I don't think these guys are in the same hemisphere from a coaching standpoint. But at a certain point, when you're down so many key players, it becomes kind of like can you hold up?
Exactly. But it'll be interesting. We'll all watch it. And we'll play some DFS. Make sure to be on the lookout for the Showdown articles. They're free as well. So let's get it. All right, let's move on to the Sunday day games. 1:00 here on the East Coast for us East Coasters. We have the first one on my list. I have the Bears traveling to Tennessee. Tennessee opened at -6.5. It's now down to -6, over under of 46.5. 50-50 split on the bets. About 80% of the money coming in on the Titans at -6. Over under, I think I said 46.5. How do you feel? The Bears, they just keep covering spreads, man. I know they're bad and they're fraudulent and they're terrible, but they just keep covering the spread. 6 is a lot. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, 6 is a lot. I think I like the Bears here. I'm always going to lean dog because that's what pays the bills, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. And the thing about so I think Nick Foles is sort of getting a bad rap, but I think a lot of that is just poor coaching.
Yeah.
I just don't. I think Nick Foles will thrive against a team that doesn't have a pass rush. And so if he has time to like get his feet set to the Moonies and the Robinsons and the Anthony Millers, if he plays, I think he's fine. I think, is it Jimmy Graham? I think Jimmy Graham
Mm-hmm.
might be a little banged up too. I think he might have sat out of practice today, but he's probably fine. So I think he's going to be able to hit those targets. And at 6 points is a lot. I think we saw last week that, Joe Burrow is a lot different than what the Bears are offering, but
Mm-hmm.
I still think the Titans were exposed. And so
Yes.
6 is just too much to me.
Yeah, I think the Titans have no pass rush. They signed Jadeveon Clowney, maybe traded for him in the beginning of the year. He was useless. I don't think he has a sack. Vic Beasley, they signed him to $9.5 million. He had 3 total tackles, so they just released him because he's been that bad. He also just didn't show up to COVID testing for the first month or whatever. That was I think that was a whole situation. I think he was just kind of trying to get out anyway. Just of note though, when the bets are 50-50, -6.5 to the Titans, as I said, it opened up 80% of the money goes on the Titans and the line comes down. I know we spoke about it last week with our guy E-Tip, and hopefully he shows up. That's just weird, right? That's something to pay attention to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So you're saying that the money,
All the money,
money's on the Titans, but
yeah,
that the Bears seems to be the play here because it's reverse
yeah.
line movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's honestly, I wasn't even thinking about that when you first laid out where the money
Yep.
was. That's a really good indicator that you should be taking the Bears here. And by the way, 6 is a lot of points. This is not college football. Anytime you're getting 6, 7, 8 points, like we talked about in the Packers game, which of course is a different situation, but this is a lot. I would have expected this line. If I'm setting this line, I'm setting it at 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, if you're getting 1.5, I think that's pretty strong.
A lot of value. It doesn't work out every time, but we trust the process. We keep doing what we're doing, and that's how we win money. And as you said, Sia, it's so funny. Everyone loves taking the favorites. Everyone loves taking the overs. But outside of the first 5 weeks of this year, if you don't take the favorites and the overs every week, you're actually probably coming out ahead, which I think is pretty important. So interesting one. I think I'm going to lean Bears as well. 6.5 would have been sweet. I'll take the push at 6. That's fine with me. Next game, I have no line because Matthew Stafford was put on the COVID and injured list, the IR, which was kind of surprising. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't see anybody else from the Lions get put on the COVID list, right? Was there anybody else?
Yeah, nobody else. I think his close contact with a COVID individual was not a player. It was like a personal, a family member, a personal friend or something.
And this came out, he got put on the COVID list only a couple hours after his wife eviscerated the Lions on the internet. So,
oh, I didn't know that.
Trade deadline's passed. He's not going anywhere, but you gotta love it, right? You just gotta love it. It is absolutely fantastic. So Lions, Vikings, I don't have any information on it. Do you have anything on your end where it opened, or is everything pretty much just off the board right
now? As you're talking to me, I'm looking up the lines to see if the site that I use Play Money on, Michael, has a line. And I do not see one. It's off the table, or off the board. So I'll tell you what. So I don't know what it opened at. I'm surprised it doesn't say.
I don't have even what it opened at.
But Chase Daniel is the backup quarterback, and honestly, I think he's fairly competent. And it wouldn't shock me if he moves the offense as well as Stafford does. The one thing about Chase Daniel that I think is interesting here is he kind of moves around in the pocket a little bit. To me, his pocket presence is a little bit better than Matt Stafford's. I think he kind of can find lanes and get the ball. I think Galladay's hurt, so he'll get the ball to these receivers. That's a tough one. The Vikings are playing really well. I don't know what the line is, but I think there might be inherent value on the Lions because Chase Daniel is going to be perceived as a huge downgrade, but to me isn't a gigantic downgrade.
Yeah, Matt Stafford hasn't the last couple of years done anything to completely wow me. He's had some really cool throws, but in terms of his play, obviously the Lions just kind of suck. One thing I will say is we can run on the Vikings and we can run on the Lions, if I'm not mistaken. So in terms of DFS, a lot of Dalvin Cook and I think DeAndre Swift right after the bye week, as you and Nick both called. After the bye week, pay attention to DeAndre Swift. He's going to be doing his thing. Came out, I think he scored he had over 100 yards rushing, had a touchdown. He looked really good. So something to pay attention to. Definitely something to pay attention to. So ready to move on. Oh, here we go. This is a fun one. So last time we saw this game, the Giants and the Washington Football Club, your favorite bet, Washington Football Club plus 3.5. And see how the turntables have turned. We now have the Giants It opened at +3.5 to the Giants, so -3.5, and is now at +3. Over under of 41.5. Jesus Christ, what an awful game. All of the money is coming in on the Giants. And I think that's only because they're the team getting the points. It was a literal 1-point game last time. It was a 1-point game, 19-20, one of the worst football games I've watched all year. Surprise. Giants looked solid last week, of course. They couldn't pull out the win. I at least enjoyed it. They couldn't give me a win for my birthday, but maybe they'll give me a win this time around. So how do you feel about this +3 to the Giants, -3 to the Washington Football Club?
Yeah, so the money being on the Giants, I genuinely think, and I don't think this is like public necessarily. It might be sharp and public, but I think it's genuinely because of how the Giants looked on Monday night. Because I think let's just assume for a second the Giants were on a bye, and by the way, Washington was on a bye last week too. Mm-hmm. I really think the money would have been even at a 3-point spread, because I think Washington's looked pretty competent. I think most people think Washington should have beat the Giants the last time out. They kind of dominated. Well, statistically, they dominated the game,
and they went for 2 points and then just didn't get it. So they literally, if they could have went for the field goal tied and probably would have won in overtime. So
exactly. So, but now honestly, I think Sterling Shepard really makes a difference in this offense. He's like not that Darius Slayton and Golden Tate are not necessarily, I'm not saying they're bad or not reliable, but Sterling Shepard's really good. He's so underrated. Evan Ingram seems to be like present now, but before he was kind of had that Ezekiel Elliott look on his face, like, what am I even doing here kind of thing. So Washington's really bad on the back end, but they do get pressure and they will create the turnovers potentially on Daniel Jones. But with all these weapons that the Giants have, that Daniel Jones is using all of them. I thought this was going to be a game I was going to bet kind of heavy on Washington, but it's a stay away for me. But I'm picking here, so I would absolutely be picking the Giants +3.
Yeah, I think +3, as we said it last time, both of these teams they're bad. Both of these teams are bad, and there's really nothing to say about that. So if one team is getting 3 points, just take the points, because I really wouldn't be surprised if the game literally ended in a 1-2 or a 3-point manner, as we saw last time. One thing I will say, very surprising, but Adam actually had it in his Adam Buckin for Life, BUCKN. For the number 4 life, had it in our waiver wire article that comes out every Monday/Tuesday for the waiver wires. Washington defense is actually very low owned, because they were coming off a bye too. So if you could snag them, maybe not use a waiver wire pickup, but if you paid attention and they're still available, which they are in a couple leagues that I'm even in, they have the next 4 games. I think one of them against the Eagles, one of them is against the Giants, one might be against the Cowboys, and one's against just some trash team, if I'm not mistaken. So it was like 4 games in a row where that front 7 is going to get to the quarterback. They're going to create turnovers. They're going to get sacks. They're going to score points in terms of fantasy. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. But how about over under of 41.5? My God, that's not even football, man. What the hell is that? That's boring.
Well, I mean, the Washington defense is pretty good. The Giants defense played pretty well last
surprisingly,
week too. So I mean, I don't know. I would lean the over there though, because I actually think I think they're going to score some. I think both sides of the ball are going to score some points. I think you have semi-competent quarterback play at this point, in spite of the turnovers, and you have pretty good receivers. I mean, Bradbury's probably going to be on McLaurin, so that's sort of sucks for him. We'll see what happens there. But Antonio Gibson's been playing better. Logan Thomas gets some catches. We'll see what happens. But I like the over there at least.
Yeah. We will see. In terms of the Giants, obviously, I know just a little bit more than the next guy because they're the team I pay attention to the most. Andrew Thomas was not terrible last week, which is really that's a positive considering how bad he's looked. The Giants are also, I don't know, I think Will Hernandez, starting left guard, will be back, but not 100%. They started Shane Lemieux, rookie out of Oregon last week. He also wasn't terrible. Outside of those 2 Daniel Jones picks, the Giants actually look kind of good. That's the crazy part. But you can't really take away 2 turnovers. That's not quite how it works. So I just keep going on and understanding that there will be at least 2 interceptions or turnovers every single game. So well, let's move on. I think this game is going to be a little bit more fun. We have the Seahawks and the Bills. Line opened at -1.5 to the Seahawks. We are in Buffalo, by the way. Over under of 55. The line has now moved to -3 to the Seahawks, with over 2/3 of the bets on the Seahawks and almost 90% of the money coming in on the Seahawks. And as we know, a boatload of the money's on the over, because that's all we want to see with this Seahawks team anyway. How do you feel about the Seahawks now at -3 against this Bills team?
Yeah, I mean, call me a sucker for taking what looks to be the obvious play, but I really like Seattle here. I don't think the Bills defense is any good at this point. I don't think they can cover the receivers. I worry a little bit about the running game for Seattle because we don't really know who's healthy. but I don't think it's going to be too big of a problem. And with the Bills, their offense is okay, but with Josh Allen's unpredictability versus Russell Wilson's predictability, I mean, I'm always going to take Seattle in this matchup. I don't think the home field advantage matters other than the travel itself, which, this is a 1 o'clock game. Kind of sucks for Seattle to, go across the country and have a game that's 10 o'clock for them. Other than that, I don't see really any issue here with the Seahawks taking care of the Bills. I will say that because of the travel and because I've noticed the Bills kind of get out to leads in first halves. Like, for example, that Rams game where they were up 28-3 and then they just completely choked it in the second half. I mean, this is kind of getting a little too cute, but if you like the Bills, I think the Bills first half would kind of make sense. And just to plan on hammering the Seahawks if they happen to be down, or live bet the Seahawks, something like that.
That's what I thought you were going to say. When the Seahawks go down, 14-3, take the Seahawks at +6 or whatever that ends up being, maybe even +4.5, and watch them come back and win. Because as we know, the Seahawks can't play a normal game. They have to play a game that there's a fourth down that has to or is not converted, a la the Vikings game we saw. I mean, last week they should have blown out the 49ers, and I just kept looking. I was like, oh, okay, Nick Mullins, wow, he threw for a lot of yards and like 10 pass attempts. What the hell's going on here? So I do think it's going to be a fun game. I do lean the over 55 is a lot. But I would say, honestly, I like Seahawks. I would have loved Seahawks -1.5. I like them at -3. If that gets to -3.5, though, I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe take the Bills there because, again, the Seahawks have to play a close game. It's almost like contractually obligated for them this year, especially against teams that they don't normally see.
Keep in mind, Jamal Adams is back. He had a full practice today. So that's a really big deal for them. I don't know if Carlos Dunlap played last week. Did he play?
I don't think he did.
I don't think so. So he should be playing this game too. So, Dunlap isn't some like great prize for them, but that's two guys that are supplementing their defense, which really kind of matters. So that's something to consider. One real quick thing. I did see a line for that Minnesota game and I saw it at 4. I can't tell you definitively whether that's, a pre-Stafford or post-Stafford. I think it's post-Stafford because I recall seeing the line yesterday when I was doing Brandon's podcast, and I don't think it was 4. That would have jumped out at me a little bit. So if it's 4, I like the Vikings still. 4, I'm sorry, the Vikings were favored by 4. If it's 4, I like the Vikings. But if it's 4.5 or 5 or anything higher than that, I would lean Detroit or a stay away. But I still like it. Like I just think the Vikings are going to run all over them, and they have the weapons in the passing game to get that score potentially out of hand.
I'm also curious what the over-under is in that game because I'd probably go under because I think they're just going to run the ball. Both teams, I think that's all they're going to do. So if you have that.
Yeah, I do. But again, I don't know how current it is, but it's 51.5.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. If that's real, let's all take the under, guys. My goodness. That's all they're going to do is run the ball in that game. So I do like that. Like the Seahawks play as well. Should be a lot of fun. Let's get to one of the more. So the Seahawks Bills, I think, is going to be fun. I do think the Seahawks pull it out. If anything, Bills potentially with the backdoor cover. This one's going to be interesting, though. Ravens traveling to Indianapolis. Opened at -3 to the Ravens. Now -2.5. Over under of 47. Most of the 60-40 split. Ravens are getting more of the bets. It is a literal 50-50 split in terms of the money. And we have most people on the over in terms of bets. But again, 50-50 split in terms of the money. So last week, Ravens -4 was your pick. It was Tipston's pick at eTip11, good friend of the show. You guys loved it. Lamar Jackson has 4 turnovers, and they still almost pull it out. So I thought it was a good bet as well. If you don't have a pick 6, 2 fumbles, and another interception, they probably win that game by 4 points. But, we can't play the hypotheticals, but.
You're right. And it's one of those things where it's like, if we were on the show Wednesday and we were like, we love this pick, they're going to be able to run all over the Steelers.
Almost 300 yards.
The only way they don't cover is if Lamar has like one of his worst games he's ever had in his entire life, including college and high school. Like if we had that qualifier out there, everybody would have been like, oh yeah, well that makes sense. Yeah, but Lamar's not going to have his worst game ever. Like, give me a break. So, here we are where they're like completely dominating them, yards per carry, like Dobbins, Gus Edwards running right through them. Just like they should have done with Kansas City. But again, they want to somehow decide, hey, Lamar's a good passer. Let's pass it around a little bit. And every time he did it, Pittsburgh was there to pick him off.
Yeah. It was, I mean, the Ravens, I think, almost had 300 total yards of just 300 rushing yards on top of the however many passing yards. I think Lamar had over 200 passing yards as well. And I mean, obviously, some of that is due to the fact that they're constantly, when you have a turnover that's returned, you then get the ball back, right? So you have a little bit more time. But
It's true.
Pittsburgh couldn't do shit. They looked like trash. James Conner, I think, had like 50 yards. He just had that touchdown. And I think he had a couple catches. So he didn't do much. Really, nobody on Pittsburgh did anything. And somehow they come out with a 4-point win. I mean, the Ravens even had the chance at the goal line. Like literally all they had to do was score that touchdown on 4th down. Couldn't get it done. So yes, that qualifier, if we gave that, maybe it'd be one thing. But hey, I thought it was a good bet. I had a couple bucks on it. It is what it is. But how about this one? Ravens -2.5 against the Colts. Colts kind of looking weird. The offense is terrible. Phillip Rivers is not good. He's very clearly not good anymore. A game manager at best. Defense is solid. Darius Leonard came back. That defense is significantly better with him there. 2.5 to the Ravens. You think that's a little too much, or you think that's it's an easy play?
I think it's an easy play. So I have kind of a story here. So I always look at the lines Monday and see, if there's any value in betting something early. So I saw the Ravens at -3 and I'm like, oh, this is definitely kicking up to 3.5. And I do not want to have to pay for that hook. So I laid like, I don't bet huge money, but I say this in relative terms. I put a pretty big play on the Ravens on Monday. I'm like, holy cow, this is to me, it was kind of a ridiculous notion that the Ravens wouldn't cover this line. And then literally, and I'm not joking, 10 minutes later, we hear the Marlon Humphrey news about COVID, one of their best corners. And then, I don't know, minutes after that, half their defense can't play until Sunday. They can't practice all week. Like, these are like starters. These are like real guys. And I'm like, oh my God. So my thought was, I know this line is going to kick down to 2.5 and I'm not going to get the value. I thought maybe it would even kick down to 2 or 1.5, but it hasn't. It's only 2.5. So I lost some value there. But whether it's 2.5 or 3, I just like the Ravens. I'm not impressed by the Colts at all. I thought they did some interesting things coming off their bye last week with getting Naheem Hines and Wilkins involved. Hilton went out. T.Y. Hilton went out with an injury. They don't have anybody really in the passing game. The Ravens defense is probably going to get the best of Phillip Rivers, who to me is a bottom 4 quarterback in the league. It's bad. Yeah. So, I mean, this one is, to me, this is like a taking candy from a baby type. And by the way, Lamar's stock is so down, and that's probably what's driving this line to be what it is. Because to me, this line should be 4.5.
Yeah, I think the Ravens are definitely a better team. Of course, as you said, Marlon Humphrey is one of the best corners in the league. He's not going to be able to play. So hopefully he is fine. He stays healthy, and it's only, a 1 week thing. He gets back to normal and everything's okay. One thing I will say, and maybe I'm going to have to kick myself after I watch this game, but there's a game where you don't really need the best cornerback or one of the best cornerbacks in the league. It's probably this one. I mean, who the hell? Phillip Rivers sucks, and then who's he throwing to? T.Y. Hilton's bad too. Like, right? He's not really good anymore. You got Rascal Pascal out there. I don't think he'd scare anybody. Like, honestly, if Michael Pittman went out, I think he might have come back, but he's going to be hurt. He's not really in tune with the offense. Like, I don't think it matters that much that Marlon Humphreys is out. I mean, I think the dude's incredible, and it would be better if he was there, but I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. So
they're going to have to be really conservative and clever with their running backs and their tight ends. Don't forget, they have like 3 tight ends. And so, the one thing Phillip Rivers can do, and I would say that really anybody, like I can go outside and do this. Like, if I have a big target with a big catch radius, I'm just going to throw him the ball and just assume he's going to come down with it. So you got Mo Alley Cox, you got Trey Burton, you got Jack Doyle, who vultured a touchdown last week. Yes. So it's going to be this like slow matriculation down the field, which might frustrate the Ravens defense. But I still think the Ravens offense has enough firepower to overcome any of that.
I think it'll be a fun game, though. I think it'll be low scoring, as you said. I mean, even the over-under, I think, indicates it at 47 right now. It actually went up, surprisingly. It started at 45. It's now up to 47. Still think I would take the under on that one because, I don't think much. They're going to run the ball, and then probably punt the ball. That's all I think is really going to happen in this game. I think it'll be boring, but I think it'll be one of those lunch pail, blue-collar type of football games there, Sia, right? So we'll see, man.
One of them Rust Belt type of games, just to make it election-y a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We got our Rust Belts going on. All right. Heard an awesome statistic. How many times do you think Phillip Rivers has thrown for 5 touchdowns in his entire career?
0.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 0. I think he's only thrown for 4 touchdowns like 9 times.
I mean, yeah. I guess
Mahomes has thrown for 3 touchdowns in a half 10 times already. So
Rivers is like it's the way he throws the ball, man. It doesn't
help.
No, it's a shot put.
It's ridiculous. Ridiculous, but you gotta love it. You gotta love stats like that. It's such a baseball stat too. But all right, let us move on. Should be another fun one. We got the Panthers traveling to Arrowhead to play the Chiefs. Chiefs covered, by the way, that 21 points. I think it was down to 19 and a half. Chiefs covered the 21 points against the Jets, and man, it was awesome watching Patrick Mahomes do his thing. Threw for 5 touchdowns. Panthers, Chiefs favored by 10. It's actually ticked up to 10 and a half. But the interesting part about it, 50-50 split on the bets. More money is actually coming in on the Panthers. Not too much more. It's 60-40. Actually, literally just moved and is now exactly 60-40. But that still, again, made the line move to 10 and a half, which is interesting. Usually you see the opposite. Over under a 52 and a half. Almost 100% of the money is coming in on that over. I love that. How do you feel about this Panthers team? Plus 10 and a half going to Arrowhead. Patrick Mahomes, what do you got?
Yeah, I like the over there too. That's a little low.
Right. Well, it opened over at 50.5 and it's gone up to 52.5.
Yeah,
so
good point.
You got it early.
Good point. Yeah. I like I mean, if you're getting 10 and a half, to me, that's a little giftish. I listen. So E-Tip talked about it last week. The defense for Carolina has some injuries. I mean, Matt Ryan and company made them look kind of bad, even in some bad weather yesterday. Last Thursday.
Yep.
And that's a problem, but their offense gets Christian McCaffrey back. They have a full complement of Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, and of course, Robbie Anderson. So I think they're going to be able to move the ball just fine. This Kansas City defense, you can A, run on them, and B, you can kind of pass on them too. So 10 and a half, I mean, to me, this is one of those, I always say like a worst case scenario is a backdoor cover. Like you let's put it this way. We had a line where the Jets were 19 and a half point favorites, underdogs to the Kansas City Chiefs. Same exact situation, different team, much worse team. So imagine Carolina's down 17 late in the game. what are the chances of that? And B, what are the chances they're not going to get some sort of backdoor cover there?
Exactly.
It just seems like even if it gets out of hand, they'll be able to catch up a little bit.
100%. Yeah, I think Carolina does cover, especially with Christian McCaffrey coming back. You can run on the Chiefs, as we've said multiple times, and you'll see it all year. I think the Panthers are worse than we thought when they were 3-2.
True.
I do think the Chiefs win comfortably, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it will. 10. I wouldn't even say 10 is like a comfortable win. It's 2 possessions in the NFL. That's nothing really crazy, but I don't think it's ever going to feel like it's really in danger for the Chiefs, if anything at all. So definitely with you there. And as we both said, let's take the over because Patrick Mahomes and Joe Brady, pretty much, as I said last week, pretty sure it's Joe Brady, not Teddy Bridgewater, doing any of that. So it's interesting.
One thing to note, and this really probably shouldn't come into play, and it was a threat last week, and it really didn't come into play, but I'm looking at the weather here for the Chiefs game, so it's the weather's going to be fine in terms of the temperature, but you're looking at 18 mile per hour winds, and that is such a guess on a Wednesday, obviously. Yeah. But if that were to kick up to like 20 or something like that, it's just something to keep an eye on, particularly from a DFS standpoint. Now, the thing I'll tell you is we saw what Mahomes did last week. Well, that was supposed to be a bad weather game too with high winds. Now, granted, by the time it was near kickoff, everybody knew the winds in that particular game were going to be down. But really, of all the wind games last week, and I think this is important to mention from a lines and a DFS standpoint, there were about 5 of them that had somewhere between 15 and 25 mile per hour expected winds. Only one of them really affected the game, and that was the Cleveland Vegas Raiders game. Other than that, even the ones that actually did have some legitimate wind, the offenses were able to pass the ball down the field. I mean, Green Bay was one of them. He was hitting Devontae like he always does. And we talked about that intermediate route guy, short route guy. But I guess the lesson there is, unless the winds are really bad, kind of don't worry about it, both from a DF. I mean, Tyreek Hill got hit for like 2 long touchdowns in Kansas City games. And that was supposed to be a game where there was, relatively high winds. So unless it's like 18 to 20 to 25, don't even worry about it.
Yeah, that I would say that. And also I think we would both agree. Baker and Derek Carr don't quite have the same arm strength that Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers do. They throw rockets. And yeah, I'm not saying Derek Carr and Baker throw ducks by any stretch of the words. Obviously some come out, they look like that, but they're not quite rockets like out of Mahomes. And so I think they can cut through it. Also of note, the Cleveland Browns Stadium is literally on the water. I don't know why anybody thought that was a good idea, but it's like, hey, here's this lake. Let's put a stadium directly next to it. I don't understand that. I was in Cleveland last year for the Bills. the Buffalo Cleveland game. It was awesome. Cleveland won. That was great. But whose idea is that? I don't.
Well, the best place for a Cleveland Browns game is not Cleveland, in my opinion. But that's just my take there. I hope CJ isn't a Cleveland Browns fan.
CJ, are you a Cleveland? What about you, S guy? Are you a Cleveland Browns fan? I don't know. We'll have to see. Let us move on. We have the Houston Texans traveling down to Duval to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, so this is weird, right? So we have the Texans. We know they suck. Will Fuller was supposed to get traded. He ended up not getting traded. That's totally fine. Texans open as a 7-point favorite. They're still a 7-point favorite with the Jaguars. And now I know Gardner Minshew's not nearly as awesome as I want him to be, but you can't tell me that some Luke, whatever the hell this kid's name is, some random 6th round pick is going to be that much better or better at all than Minshew. He hasn't been in the offense for 2 years, doesn't really know what he's doing. The Jags are kind of shitty. The line didn't move. Not only that, more money is coming in on the Jaguars at +7, over under a 50.5. In case anyone was curious, the under is heavily bet there. I don't know. I know, again, Minshew's not as great as I want him to be, but zero line movement for a rookie 6th round pick coming in. Do they really think that little of Minshew? That little?
I don't even know what to say about that.
The back of the
line didn't move. No. I agree with you.
Oh, okay.
I mean, listen, I know you were like the biggest Minshew fan of all time.
Second. Shout out my cousin, Justin. Yeah.
Oh, right. Justin. So sorry about that. I hope your dreams haven't been dashed too quickly.
My quarterback's Daniel Jones. I mean, I will gladly take Gardner Minshew at this point, honestly. But
so I totally agree with you. This line should have moved. I mean, part of the reason it's not moving, it was already kind of high, and this is a Houston Texans team at the end of the day. But with all of that said, Will Fuller's still on the team. Deshaun Watson has his full complement of receivers. I like the Texans. I don't even know what to say. Like Luton, so we did the NFL draft show, right? And there were 6 of us on there. You remember Javi and David and everybody, Jason and everybody else. And I knew every single thing about it. And of course I didn't get that stuff out because it was like the worst show we've ever done in our entire life.
But next time it's just going to be me and you though. So it's going to be great. And probably Nick, but
the point is, I was like really neck deep in all these guys, and Jake Luton was not on anybody's radar. And so I go to Roto World today, which is one of those sites I used to kind of lean on, and I really don't anymore because it's just their analysis is kind of funny sometimes. And here's what they say. So I'm just going to quote. They say there's like half the sentence is gone, and it says, and he rarely turns it over, posting a career 42-11 touchdown interception ratio in 20 Pac-12 starts. So you're going to tell me that he rarely turns it over in the NFL because of what he did at Oregon State in the Pac-12. I mean, it's just like
in half of his games, he turned it over, though. That's in more than half of the games. 11 and 20. That's over 50%.
Exactly. Well, yes.
Yeah. That's bad.
So, okay, that was like the part of the statement I kind of ignored. It's kind of like, don't tell me the guy is not a turnover machine or that he's not going to turn it over when he's going from Oregon State, the Pac-12, to the actual NFL.
Yeah.
Like it's just a dumb thing to say. Like you can say he wasn't too turnover prone at Oregon State against inferior competition if you want. But anyway, that's just a little soapbox thing. But give me the Texans. That's a long way of saying, give me the Texans.
I think so too. It's just crazy that there was zero line movement, and still with that information, we kind of known Gardner Minshew is going to be out. We were just kind of curious: was it going to be Mike Glennon and his 18-foot neck, or was it going to be this 6th round pick? Clearly, they're going with the 6th round pick, and still zero line movement and more money coming in on the Jags. So either that's somebody saying, "Hey, we really don't think Gardner Minshew is any better than this 6th round pick," or B, I honestly don't know what B is. Like, what the hell is B? Like, I just don't know. So it's going to be interesting. Shout out to Justin. I feel so bad for him. He just wants Trevor Lawrence now, but we all got him a lot of Gardner Minshew stuff last year for Christmas because he was good for like 3 games. So now he's like decked out in Gardner Minshew socks and shirts and hats, and it's not great. And one thing I will say.
Okay. Is the one thing that you will say that you still think that Gardner Minshew is better than Kirk Cousins?
Yes. Okay. That wasn't, but I do still think he's better than Kirk Cousins.
No, you're wrong. Kirk Cousins is not a good quarterback, but he's definitely better than Gardner Minshew.
I disagree. Gardner Minshew can move. He's got a sweet mustache. And I bet if you put him on the Vikings, he would complete more than like 11 of 23 passes with 2 interceptions. Like, I don't think that's that crazy of a thing to say. He can hand the ball off to Dalvin Cook as good as I can. Like, what the hell? I don't think it's that difficult. So I don't know. I would like to see that. But the one thing I was going to say is, yes, I do agree with you. That draft show is probably one of the worst shows we've ever done. And thankfully, it'll be much, much better this coming year. So everybody, NFL draft, first round live, Win Daily Sports. Check it out. It'll probably be me, Sia, and Nick. Jason will butt his way in. We'll then kick him out because I run all this shit on the back end. We'll have a good time. We'll have a really good time. All right, let us move on. We have the Broncos, the Denver Broncos, traveling down to hot Atlanta. Atlanta favored by 4 to open up. It's now down to 3.5. Over under sits at about 50 with all the money on the over. Literally all of it. Over 90%. Over 95% of the money is coming in on the over. About 65% of the money on Atlanta at -3.5. So again, reverse line movement. Money coming in on Atlanta at -4, I'm assuming. Moved down to 3.5. That's something. Drew Lock looked pretty cool last week. He had his moxie back. He made you some money. He's not going up against Anthony Lynn or even Dan Quinn at this point. But my goodness, that was a lot of fun to watch. Shout out Drew Lock. He was dancing and rapping to Jeezy, as the kids like to say, I think. I don't know. How do you feel about this game? Broncos and Atlanta -3.5 to Atlanta.
Okay. Hey, you're one of the kids. You're 19
Good
years
point.
old.
That's a good
and
one.
19 years old with a mustache somehow.
Sweet mustache. Thank you.
And B, I like the Broncos. I mean, listen, you got 2 relatively bad teams.
Yes.
By the way, I personally don't think that Calvin Ridley's going to play. Like, he's not been ruled out. He didn't practice today, but the way he walked off the field, I mean, I've seen this enough over the decades to like gauge like how hurt somebody is. And it just did, his foot and his ankle, it just didn't seem right the way he was going to the locker room. I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing anything, but like, I just don't think he's going to play.
I'm pretty sure you're a resident doctor on the show.
That's
if
true.
I'm not mistaken. So
I am the resident Win Daily doctor and lawyer.
Yeah. Well, Well, there's a couple lawyers actually on the team here, which is pretty cool, but yeah. You're definitely our doctor. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll take the dog. Even if Ridley plays, I kind of like the points here, but I personally don't think Ridley's going to play. So it's kind of one of those things where I want to grab it now, because even though it went down to 3.5, because I think Matt Ryan is at his best. Well, this is an obvious statement, but Matt Ryan is a different quarterback when he has Julio and Calvin Ridley on the field. When he only has one of them, he looks like just like a fragile doll that can't move in the pocket. And so I'm not interested.
A fragile doll. I like that. That's a very, very descriptive of you. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I'm not going to lie. I was not watching that Thursday night game, so I did not see Ridley go out. I did hear it didn't look great, but considering it was the Thursday game and maybe not the Sunday game, give him an extra 3 days of rest. That's something that I would definitely lean on. We'll obviously see come probably Thursday, Friday. If he's not participating Thursday and Friday, it's most likely he's not going to go. But it's definitely interesting. You are right. When Julio and Ridley are both in there, my goodness, watch out. When one of them, for whatever reason, is either hurt or just incapable. And granted, we've seen 2 of them in the game, right? It was that Packers game where we saw Julio and Ridley there, and they were getting hammered so much. They said, you know what, Julio, just sit out the second half. You don't really need to be here for this anymore. So it's definitely something to pay attention to, but I don't know. Matt Ryan sucks. Here's a question. Who would you rather have, Gardner Minshew and Matt Ryan?
Oh, that is a good question. As much as I hate Matt Ryan, I'd rather have Matt Ryan.
Damn it. All right. I'll get you on one of them. I will get
Matt Ryan has enough command pre-snap for me to have some like modicum of confidence in him. And his arm isn't, he's an accurate thrower. He doesn't have a strong arm, but he's an accurate thrower. And I can't really say those 2 things about Gardner Minshew. But he's got moxie.
And a mustache.
And a mustache.
And a sweet mustache. I also want to say I apologize to our friend Casey. We were talking about the Cleveland game a couple minutes ago. He said, and I was talking about why the hell did they just put a stadium on a lake? Casey says fans oddly love that. It's basically a jetty in the middle of a lake. Okay, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but I respect you and your decisions, Casey. You keep going to those games. I'll keep rooting for the Browns. I promise you that. And we'll see. Anything on UCA? You live in Florida. Do you even know what winter is? I forgot.
I don't know. No, I don't know what cold weather is either, by the way.
Lucky.
But Casey, I do know has, he might even still live there, but I know he has roots in Cleveland. So, and I'm sure like right when he got on is when I insulted Cleveland. So
yeah, of course.
Sorry about that, buddy.
Murphy's Law, right? Something like that. Whatever. Let's move on. We have a probably going to be a pretty boring AFC West matchup. We have the Las Vegas Raiders traveling down to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. Chargers were favored by 3. That number has come down. I'm seeing at 1.5 and 1 in certain places. So let's just go with 1.5 for argument's sake. 60% of the bets coming in on the Raiders, almost 90% of the money. We have an over-under started at 56. It's now to 52. About split where the money's going on that one. Raiders, Chargers. You hate Anthony Lynn. Are you going to take Anthony Lynn this time? What do you got, Sia? Talk to me.
Well, first of all, I loved this line when it was 3. Obviously, I love the Raiders. And I was making the argument yesterday on Brandon's podcast that I just think the Raiders could be like the 4th or 5th best team in the AFC. I mean, I think once you get past Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and Baltimore, I just think there's a huge drop off from there. And I don't necessarily think the Titans own that space. I don't think Indianapolis owns that space. And the Raiders keep outperforming, themselves. They keep outperforming what we think they are. And so when I see it, I like what Herbert's doing. He has all of his weapons too. Other than, of course, the main running back that he would probably like to have in Austin Eckler. But I like the Raiders. I don't have much analysis here because I think these are both like 2 pretty good teams. But if you're going to give me a toss-up, or you're going to give me a 1.5, and I know I can go against Anthony Lynn, that's what I'm going to do because that's what I've done all year, and it pays off. Whether that's in the live betting market, which I've been betting against Anthony Lynn.
You stole it from me again. Keep going.
No, no, I'm sorry, but like it is such a good habit. I actually made almost all of my money with halftime bets in live bets last week. I lost that Ravens game. I think I lost one. I didn't have a lot of interest in like taking a lot of games pre-flop. Copyright Gil Alexander, Beeson. But the point is this is a game that you can probably pounce on if the Chargers get an early lead. So this is a really good live bet opportunity.
Yeah. The Chargers are the first team in NFL history to blow 17-point leads in 4 straight games. Yeah, they're a team you want to live bet against. Let them go up by 2 touchdowns, take whoever they're playing against, either outright, because I'm sure that money line is ridiculous, or just be safe, take the points, and, when they do end up kind of letting all of that back to earth, you win some money. Yeah, when I heard that statistic, Anthony Lynn can't possibly keep his job. You can't, okay, whatever, maybe finish out the year, but 4 straight games where you have 17 plus. Some of them were 21 points, right? What was it against the Saints? I think they were up against the Saints by 20, if I'm not mistaken. That's 3 possessions in the NFL. You should not lose a game when you're up by 3 possessions. You should not lose 4 games. You should not lose 4 straight games when you have 17 points. That is just absolutely insane. So I think I hate Anthony Lynn, not quite as much as you, because I think that's impossible. But man, watching this week after week, I understand your frustrations. Yeah.
I mean, it's so ridiculous. By the way, this was his track record last year too. He couldn't hold on to lead. He couldn't win a close game. Like there is nothing. There's literally not one thing you can point to Anthony Lynn and be like, he's good at this. Like, I don't know, maybe he's a good locker room guy. I doubt it because he doesn't kind of look to be. He looks to be more like, kind of that quiet type, not necessarily a motivator. The scheming, I can't tell if he's doing anything. There's certainly nothing special going on. And then the game management is just so poor. And it's been poor for so long. I don't understand what's happening here.
It's pretty bad. It is pretty darn bad. I feel bad for Chargers fans. My dad's a pretty big Chargers fan, so he hasn't been super happy this year. I don't think Anthony Lynn's keeping his job for too much longer. We have 4 more games here on the Win Daily Sports Betting Lines show. Don't forget, follow us on Twitter at Win Daily Sports. Follow Sia at Sia Najad. Follow me, Michael Brazil 1, windailysports.com/chat. 7 free days in the expert chat. We also, the betting membership. You think Sia and I are good? My gosh. Check out what Capper Steve does. Dude bets cars and like wins cars every weekend. And when I say cars, I mean legitimate, like the money that it takes to put a down payment and pay for an entire car. So make sure to check us out there. And then we also have our NFL season pass. Everything on the DFS side, $79.99 through the Super Bowl. So something to pay attention to. We do have a couple. We have a couple comments over here. Casey, he forgave you. So yeah, I hope that's okay. Sounds like you guys are back. You're so good. True. Brown's performance usually warrants insults. At least he's an honest fan. We appreciate that. Casey also doesn't live in Cleveland anymore. He's lived in New York City. Shout out my man. Wife is a Giants fan. I appreciate her. There you go, Michael. Thank you, Casey. And we have Carlton coming in. He does seem mean in the locker room, talking about Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, I don't think so, though. I
Yeah,
don't.
I
He
feel like
doesn't.
the whole Tyrod Taylor thing, especially in the beginning of the year, was just kind of dumb, right? Like Justin Herbert comes in, almost beats the Chiefs, and he's like, no, it's Tyrod Taylor's job. And then the next week, it's like, he looks pretty good. He's like, no, it's Tyrod Taylor's job. And then the next week, he's like, shit, like, all right, yeah, it's clearly Justin Herbert's job. What am I supposed to do? So that was just kind of sad. Obviously, Anthony Lynn didn't stab Tyrod Taylor in the lungs, so you can't really blame him on that. But you didn't really, do a great job at paying attention to that, reading the room.
Well, I mean,
just go with
speaking of paying attention, and this, I don't know that this warrants any analysis, but when he's on the sideline, like a lot of these good coaches, they're maybe giving a pep talk to their quarterback, or they're kneeling down with the offensive line unit or something. Like, I just feel like he looks so lost on the sideline, like that he doesn't even necessarily know why he's on the sideline. Like he's lost, like in a mall, like a kid lost in the mall. Like, and every time he's got the same expression on his face, and it's like, I don't know how teams. If I was on that sideline, I don't know how I would respond to that. As my lead is dwindling for the fourth game in a row, I think I'd want my coach to lay into somebody, or to like gather the troops or call a timeout at a weird time and just like get everybody like. There's nothing going on there. And clearly from a scheme standpoint, there's nothing going on either. I can't put my finger on anything positive that this guy is doing, other than he looks like a really nice guy. We said that last week when I ranted about him for the 7th week in a row. Like, he seems like a super nice guy. Maybe he's a decent coordinator. Maybe he's a good general manager. Maybe he had say in getting Herbert, who I didn't think was going to be a great NFL quarterback. And I was wrong about that. But coach, come on, guys. This is embarrassing now.
I think it's going to be last year, except I know the Spanoses are like crazy cheap, and if they're not paying him that much money, they'll just let him stick around. That, or if he has a couple years left on his contract, there's no shot that they fire him before there's at least 1 year left, because then they have to pay that, and they're not interested in doing that. But to lose that game to the Broncos the way they did against Drew Lock and that Broncos offense, who has just looked horrendous this year. Shout out Pat Shurmur, former Giants head coach. I don't know how he got a job, but he did, so that team just looks like shit too. So the way it happened, I think, doesn't really help. All right, let's move on. 425. I'm assuming this is America's game of the week because it's the two biggest fan bases, pretty much. Steelers, Cowboys. Steelers traveling down. Steelers traveling down to Jerry World's line opened up at 13.5. It is now a straight 14. 70% of the bets, 99% of the money on the Steelers covering. Over under sits at 41.5. Gucci DiNucci not starting, unfortunately. They gave him one shot. They took it away. He had his one shot, as Eminem says. I think it's going to be between Garrett Gilbert, AAF legend, and Cooper Rush, which is a pretty cool name. Got to give him that. Or Rush Cooper. Honestly, I don't really remember.
Cooper Rush.
Whatever. It doesn't really matter. 14 to the Steelers. Is that not enough at this point?
I don't think it's enough. Although, I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of these quarterbacks. I don't think Ben DiNucci had as bad of a game as people say he did. I mean, I understand he didn't look good, but I'm not exactly sure what you expected from the third-string rookie quarterback from James Madison University behind an offensive line that had one healthy offensive lineman in Zach Martin. So the idea, like, I'm listening to these terrible talk shows on the one that Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp are on, which, like, literally lowers your IQ. Like, there should be a warning at the beginning of the show. And they're like talking about how bad Ben DiNucci was and how he should be out of the league immediately and he should be cut. And I'm like, what are the expectations here? Like, did you see what Dalton did against Washington? Because it wasn't that much different than what Ben DiNucci was trying to do against the Eagles. So that's really frustrating to me. So whether it's Cooper Rush or the other guy you mentioned, who was it again?
Garrett Gilbert, AAF legend. Yes.
Who ate Garrett Gilbert? So yeah, I don't think it's enough. I don't think Pittsburgh is this like world dominating team like people sort of think they are right now. I mean, we saw what Baltimore did running the ball, and that should be the MO. They should try to get Zeke and Pollard involved and just try to run it on them, because they were pretty successful doing that against the Eagles. But Kellen Moore has not shown that he can coordinate a game for 4 games offensively. And so I think ultimately the Pittsburgh defense is going to take advantage of untimely plays by Kellen and just untimely errors by the quarterback. And so I hate to say this, but I think I'd have to take the Steelers here.
Yeah, 14 it's 2 touchdowns. You usually don't see that in the NFL. The Chiefs did cover 19.5 against a team that's almost as bad in the Jets. One thing I will say, outside of that, it was 9-7. The Cowboys were winning at the half. Yes, what the hell did you expect out of Ben DiNucci, 7th round pick out of JMU? He was leading at the half. Yes, the Eagles are completely incompetent. Don't get me wrong, but that in itself is kind of like, all right, dude, you're winning at the half. What else could we literally be asking for? And if it wasn't for that total BS defensive touchdown at the end of the game for the Eagles, it was 9-15, right? Like it wasn't like that far out of, the realm of potentially coming back. So like, I mean, again, I didn't watch all that game because it was trash, but I didn't think he was so bad that he should get kicked out of the league. Or, I mean, there's a reason why you went with him in the first place, right? Like, why didn't you go with one of these other guys? You're taking what, Mr. Rush Cooper Rush off the practice squad. I mean, if you thought Ben DiNucci was that, like, if you're immediately after a game saying, like, we can't possibly use this guy, it's like, well, fuck, man. Like, what are we doing here then? Mike McCarthy is a terrible coach. So I don't know. That's just me. And yes, that show is just god awful. Don't watch Skip and Shannon. Watch
I wasn't watching it. I was literally like in my car scanning channels on Sirius XM, where you can catch Win Daily, by the way, on Saturday night, 11 to 1. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and I just landed on that, and I heard DiNucci, and I kept listening, and I'm like, man, they are killing this guy, and it's so unfair. I mean, there were so many plays where the Eagles were getting there in like a second and a half. Mm-hmm. Like what, including that fumble, by the way. Like, what exactly did you think? Like, do you think Dalton would have done that better? Like, what are we talking about here? At least DiNucci is more mobile. I mean, it's just so frustrating to hear a guy get killed for like coming in the most incredibly awkward and bad circumstances.
And it's like, at least he was trying, right? It wasn't like Caleb Haney on the Bears a couple years ago where it was like he was like 3 of 16 with 4 interceptions. At least he was trying to move the ball to the receivers and just trying to do something, because that's at least not nearly as boring, right?
Or by the way, and I hate to say this, but like Alex Smith, when he came in, it's a great story, but he didn't even really try to hold on to the ball for more than a second. I mean, he was throwing it literally like 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage every single play. Mm-hmm. At least DiNucci was trying to use his legs and there was one play where he went to the sideline. It got replayed like 5 times, and he tried to do a little sidearm Brett Favre action to Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper had already checked out of the play. He was like, yeah, I'm good. Like, we're good here. I'm on the sideline. I'm probably out of bounds. Like, so I'm just not even going to pay attention. And DiNucci's like, throws a perfect spot. It probably wouldn't have been caught anyway, but like the kid's trying to make something happen.
I would rather watch that than him just kind of like loft it out of bounds to nobody. At least give me some action. Like, shit, man, I don't know. And again, the Eagles probably should have lost that game, but that's neither here nor there. All right, couple more games. Our last Sunday main slate game, we have the Dolphins traveling down to Arizona. Cardinals favored by 4.5. 50-50 split on the bets, about 67% of the money coming in on the Dolphins. Over 48. Tua looked bad. Like, my goodness, he looked bad, but he also didn't have to do anything. So I don't think they really cared or tried once they were up, because he had that fumble on like the first play, which it was just, Aaron Donald's going to do whatever he wants. And then after that, there was the pick 6, and Jared Goff looked like dog shit. And I know Tua didn't have to do anything, but like 11 of 22 with a fumble and 93 yards didn't instill too much confidence in me. Sia, boots on the ground. How did you feel about Tua's first game?
I didn't think it was very good. I don't think he's ready. I think the switch was made at the wrong time. I think Fitzpatrick should have played the whole season, to be honest with you. I don't think their chances to make the playoffs or win in the playoffs are increased by Tua being in there versus Ryan Fitzpatrick. I understand Ryan is super volatile, but I just don't know what you're getting out of Tua right now. And honestly, I still think he has some steps to make to really feel comfortable about his hip surgery. I mean, that was like a very dramatic injury. I thought they were just kind of use this year as a red shirt and just have him, sit for a while. So I wasn't impressed with the performance. But again, like you said, with what the Dolphins did on defense, like, can we really judge his performance? Because he wasn't really allowed to spread his wings, if you will. So I just don't know that we know what. Yeah, right. I don't think we know what we have in Tua yet. But what I do know is that I'm taking the Cardinals. I'm taking the favorite here, -4, because. So the thing about the Cardinals, they lost their best pass rusher. They can't create pressure, which you would think would benefit Tua. But if you remember, before the bye, they beat Seattle in that crazy game, which won me a bunch of money in DraftKings, by the way, because I had the D-Hop, Kyler Murray, Tyler Lockett little thing stat going on.
Nice.
And long story short, they weren't able to create in the second half. They were like, we're not going to let Russell Wilson carve us up. We're going to create pressure. We're going to bring a blitz. And Russell Wilson made, believe it or not, mistake after mistake after mistake in the second half. So my thought is, if they can create pressure with the blitz, like they did against Russell Wilson. They know they have a rookie quarterback here. They probably don't even need to be that dramatic with their schemes here. And they are going to confuse Tua because he's new and a rookie, and B, I know they can create pressure and survive on the back end like they did against Seattle. So again, and they're also coming off a bye, and they're at home, and Dolphins are traveling to the West Coast. Like all of those things in mind, like this could be a game that like kind of gets out of hand, because I don't think Kyler Murray is matchup proof at this point because of what he's doing with his legs, breaking the pocket, buying time, all of those things. He's got, Christian Kirk's finally stepping it up. Your boy, Michael.
I'll hand up. He scored 2 touchdowns, I think 3 touchdowns this year. Shout out Christian Kirk. Best 2-game stretch. Best 2-game stretch of his 3 entire years. Yeah, I will put my hand up on that one.
He's a legit receiver, in my opinion. And you got D-Hop too, and Chase Edmonds is just as, actually he's better than Kenyon Drake, and he catches passes too. Great DFS play, 6,800 on DraftKings, by the way. But the short of it is, sorry, I'm going super long. I really like the Cardinals here. I really like the Cardinals here.
The short of it is I'm going super long. I like that. See, I love your honesty and your optimism. I agree. Cardinals, I'm looking at it right now. It's kind of weird. It looks like you can get -3.5 on FanDuel, and it looks like -4.5 on PointsBet. So I don't know. You might want to shop around, check out a couple different lines because it looks like it's a little all over the place there. But I actually want this game to stay. Not like, I'm not going to root for it to be a one. I mean, I'm always rooting for a 1-score game, but I want to actually see Tua have to do something. He literally had to do nothing. It was 28-7, pretty much, you snap your fingers and that game was completely out of hand. And their offense did nothing all game. I think they had a total of 200 yards. It felt like they had like 100 rushing yards and then Tua threw for 93. So even with it being out of hand, I expected him to throw for more than 93 yards. Like on 22 attempts, that's pretty bad. So we'll see what happens there. Also, Myles Gaskin is out, something to pay attention to. He was looking good. I mean, good, not great, but he got a lot of touches. They were paying attention to him. So they traded for Darrell Williams of the Chiefs. So that kind of sucks for him, but it is what it is.
Was it Darrell Williams or Washington? I thought they traded for Washington, their third string.
I thought it was Darrell Williams.
I think it was Dwayne Washington, the former Raider that went to Kansas City this last year. Okay. I'll double check it as we go.
I don't know why. Maybe I just I saw the D and the W and just forgot Washington was on the team. Maybe that's on me.
Most people did.
It was like a 7th round pick, I think, or they gave a 7th with the running back and got a 6th back. So it's pretty much nothing. Obviously, with Le'Veon Bell, don't really need too much there, but definitely interesting. Definitely interesting. And we have Gesicki season. I don't know, man. Gesicki hasn't done shit all year. So I don't, has it ever been? He had like 1 game so far, so I don't know.
The problem is I don't know how many. There's so many. I guess Isaiah Ford left the team, so that frees up a few targets. Isaiah Ford's pretty good, by the way. I think he's going to do okay with New England if they get that quarterback situation fixed. But Gesicki just doesn't get the targets. Like you got Adam Shaheen coming in there and getting red zone targets. So as talented as he is, and I know Nick talks about him all the time, he really is talented. He lines up in the slot like he's a receiver, which is great if you're rostering a tight end in fantasy, but he's just not getting the targets. I mean, with Tua in there, if it was Fitzpatrick, I'd like Gesicki this week. If you remember, Arizona was really bad against the tight end last year.
Terrible.
And I think they're pretty bad against them now as well. So Preston Williams, Devontae Parker, Gesicki, I'm down on all those guys. And with Myles Gaskin not playing, like that was the most talented running back, and he's not even that talented. Now Breida has a hamstring injury. Like we're looking at like Laird and Jordan Howard.
Let's go.
I mean, that's bad. That's like really bad. And now Dolphins coming off like Goff, going from Goff to Kyler Murray. It's such a different set of problems. And I just think Arizona coming off a bye is just in such a good position right now.
Yeah, I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to have a field day. I don't know. Did you see the clip from, I think it was the Cardinals game? Like at the end of the first half, they literally zoom in on Kyler's face and you see DeAndre Hopkins has single coverage. He hikes the ball, looks at him, literally starts laughing as he's throwing a touchdown.
No.
It is awesome. You have to check it out. If you don't know it, you literally see him like get the ball and look up, and his face just lights up and he just starts laughing. Doesn't even grab the laces, just throws the ball into the corner of the end zone. DeAndre Hopkins catches it for a touchdown.
Oh, I think I know what play you're talking about. I just never saw his facial expression. I remember he didn't grab the laces. Wow.
Yep. They do a zoom in on his face. I found it somewhere on the internet. You could see him physically laughing as he's throwing the ball. It is absolutely fantastic because it is true. You give DeAndre Hopkins one-on-one coverage. Why? You literally should not do that. I would rather Christian Kirk beat me than see DeAndre Hopkins in single coverage, especially against that Seattle team, which is very bad. So definitely definitely make sure to check that out. All right. One last thing.
So Michael, we have a question from Casey. He wants to know how many ounces my distracting blue bottle is.
It's huge.
And this is water, obviously. It's 48 ounces. So there you have it. And
do you drink all of that in one show?
Not in one show, but right after the show it'll be done. So
wow.
Yeah.
Do you get up in the middle of the night and pee a lot?
Well, I stopped.
It's a lot of water for like 9 o'clock at night.
I go to sleep pretty late.
Okay.
I'm not on the senior citizen plan like you are, so I'm not going to get to bed.
I'm 19. I'm a growing boy. See, I need to go. Yeah, to sleep.
But you live this like weird life where you started old, and you're going to be like, I don't know, what's that Brad Pitt movie? Anyway, the point is, I stopped drinking water at around 10 o'clock, so that if I go to bed at 12:30, I'm usually in good shape. By the way, Casey, thanks for watching. Carlton, Glide, Casey, I think you're already subscribed, but if you guys aren't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, that's really important. Our podcast too, but YouTube is where you're going to see the live stream. So any of you that are interested in DFS or honestly updates on these games against the spread, 11 o'clock to 12:30, our guy Sticks Picks, who is like so freaking brilliant. It's so ridiculous. Good. And our other guy, Nick, at DFS Ghost, they're on the live stream, and we put all these shows on the live stream too. So like literally right now, if you guys don't mind, go to our YouTube channel, just hit the subscribe button once you find Win Daily Sports, and check us out there because we have a ton of content on there.
Smash that button. I think we're up to almost 500 subscribers on YouTube too. So we're doing well. Just keep going. Just keep chugging. So we do appreciate everybody. Smash that subscribe button, as the YouTubers like to say. All right. Last couple games. This should be fun. Saints at Bucks. Sunday night, 4.5 to the Bucks. Again, if you shop around a little bit, looks like it's 5.5 in a couple places. I don't know what the hell's going on there, but let's call it 4.5 to the Bucks. 50-50 split on the bets. About 80% of the money is coming in on the Saints. 55.5 over under. That has moved down to 51.5 with 95% of the money coming in on the under. So that's something to pay attention to. Yes, Alvin Kamara did come up on the injury report. No, I don't think Alvin Kamara is going to miss this game. I think he's going to be completely fine. Michael Thomas might be coming back, which will be kind of cool. He didn't get traded, as we saw. I didn't think he was going to. That was kind of ridiculous, but he might be coming back. The Saints eked it out. They didn't. Bears covered, but the Saints eked it out last week in overtime. Shit, man. The Saints team is not nearly as good as we hoped. Drew Brees does not look very good at all. But if Mike Thomas is coming back, maybe it's something. Mike Thomas played one game this year. It was against the Bucks. He did absolutely nothing. So maybe that's something to pay attention to. But how do you feel about these Saints and Bucks? Bucks minus 4.5, who also did not look that great against the Giants on Monday night.
I think saying they didn't look that great is an understatement. I mean, the Giants should have won the game, period.
Yes.
The Giants should have won it. There were multiple instances where, unfortunately, Daniel Jones made the wrong decision, which is, that's built into a Giants game. But, like, it got to a point in the second half where it's like, man, are you seriously making this throw right now? Like, you, of all people, should know that don't make that throw.
Don't make that throw.
And he makes the throw. It's unbelievable.
Multiple times. Yeah.
Multiple times, exactly. And they were getting beat. These corners were like whatever zones, whatever. Like I don't think they were playing man most of that game, and it was a kind of a disaster. Whether it was Sterling Shepard or Ingram, obviously, Kate caught that touchdown at the end.
Yep.
I mean, they were just getting carved up, and Gallman was running right up the middle for 4 or 5 yards before he was getting touched. By the way, I think Gallman
before he fell down. He didn't get touched most of the time. He fell down. So that's something to pay attention to.
So I like the Saints here. I agree with you. The Saints haven't looked good all year, but getting Michael Thomas, I think, is coming back. I think Emmanuel Sanders is coming back. So you sort of have everybody back. Kamara, Latavius Murray. I think they'll be able to run the ball on Tampa. I think they'll be able to pass in that intermediate game against Tampa. So I don't think Brees' arm is really going to be a super big factor here because I don't think the game plan is going to really warrant him throwing it downfield. And Tampa, they do get Antonio Brown. That's great for them. He might break one. That's fantastic, but they don't have Godwin. And so if we're looking at it, if I'm a Tampa fan, I'd rather have Godwin and Evans than I would Antonio Brown and Evans because Brown hasn't really been integrated into this team at all. So, and with Fournette and Ronald Jones, they're not getting a ton out of those two guys. Ronald Jones kind of got back in the doghouse. You're getting points here, and it's more than 3 points. Give me the dog.
Yeah, I think 4.5. The Saints already beat the Bucks outright once this year. It was week 1, so the Bucks really didn't get into the swing of things yet. Bucks are healthier side of Godwin. And looking it up, I thought I saw he did actually like he was a limited participant in practice. We'll actually find out on Friday if he can catch passes, but he did break his finger, so it's something to pay attention to. I don't think they really needed him for that Giants game. And yes, while the Giants should have won that game, it was a very clear look ahead for the Bucs. They just kind of thought like, oh, if we just like show up, we'll win this game. And as we said, the Giants defense isn't nearly as bad as their offense. It's those 2 turnovers and that awful throw at the end for the 2-point conversion by Daniel Jones that really did seal the deal. So I think I agree with you. I think the Saints cover the spread. I think the Saints win outright again, kind of. I think it's just going to be one of those things. So it's something to pay attention to, but 4.5, it's a solid amount of points. I could see this being a 3-point game or someone winning with a field goal towards the end of it. That's not that big a deal. We also have Glide still in the chat. Who dat? As a Saints fan from New England, could not be more sick that Brady came to my division and succeeding. I mean, what'd you expect, man? Like, what'd you expect? It's Tom Brady. And the Patriots look like shit, who we'll get to in a second. But anything else on that game? Do you think, I mean, what's the division like right now, right? Is it Bucks are 6-2, 5-2?
Yeah, I mean, you've got, I mean, obviously, Carolina is sort of still in the mix a little bit. Atlanta's out of it. But yeah, I think Carolina's 5-2. No. So I think Carolina's 6-2, right?
And when you say Carolina, you mean the Buccaneers.
I'm sorry, the Buccaneers. Yeah, I got to double check that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't have it.
I think they have a 1-game lead on the Saints right now, is the point.
And then if they tie, the Saints will have the tiebreaker if they win this game, especially. So not like soccer. No such thing as aggregate scoring here. And I like that.
But little commentary to Glide, though. So I got to admit, Tom Brady's a little bit better this year than I thought the Bucs would be good. Don't get me wrong, but Brady himself is a little bit better this year than I thought he would be. But he's got a nice complement of weapons here. I mean, forget about what he had versus New England. Not many teams, in the last 5 years have had this type of receiving core. Granted, he doesn't really have the running game necessarily, but having Godwin and Evans and now Antonio Brown, I mean, that's an embarrassment of riches. And Gronkowski, who looks, decent. Cameron Brate's a serviceable tight end. OJ Howard obviously got injured, but they've had so many weapons for Brady.
They have, but the interesting thing is he hasn't had all of them, it doesn't feel like. Mike Evans, while he's been in every game, he's been hurt all season. I think that's been very clear. Last game, he did do pretty well against Bradbury. One of those, was acrobatic. Like, you got to give, tip your cap every once in a while. I thought Bradbury did a pretty good job, actually, even with the line Evans had. Chris Godwin's pretty much been hurt. I think he had concussion, then a hamstring, now a broken finger. Again, as I said, I think it's just one of those years you're just not going to see him, unfortunately, especially for fantasy owners. Probably taking him in the second round. That just sucks. So Evans is hurt all year. Godwin is hurt all year. Yes, they have Gronk, but he didn't start to look like he was even halfway back to life, except for a couple weeks ago. So even with that, I would say with all the injuries, they're still better than the New England receiving core. But I'm really curious what it looks like. You throw Antonio Brown in there, you get Evans fully-ish healthy. He looked a lot better last week. You get Godwin back. Damn, that is going to be insane to see that. And watch out. I don't think Antonio Brown does too much this week, but next week, the week after, that's going to be something.
Yeah, and just clarification from Glide, the Bucs, because they haven't had their bye, are a half game up, not a full game up.
Appreciate you, and that's why we love the comments. That's why we like the comments right there. I do have to ask, though. I know this show's going a little long, but you and I were having so much fun. We have one more game, but it sucks, and I don't really care about it. So as the Win Daily Sports resident lawyer, how the hell is Antonio Brown actually allowed to play? Why would they made it a 9-game suspension? But you didn't have to sign him, so it was just 9 games this year where he couldn't play, and then he's still under investigation because the NFL's a bunch of assholes. What the hell are we doing here? I just don't get it.
Well, your second point is interesting because I agree. I was a little confused as to whether his suspension was going to start when he joined a team or not. But
he's not suspended. He's just not signed by a team for 9 games. Who the hell cares?
So he clearly went in with his lawyers or whoever he needed to go in with, maybe the Players Association, and said, "Hey, listen, I can't." Something was obviously deal was made before the season started. So, because I was always kind of curious about that. Why isn't he talking about this at all? I thought he was just going to retire. So here we are. But yeah, I think Antonio
didn't he retire twice, if I'm not mistaken?
On Twitter,
Conor McGregor did, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I thought that was weird. I think that's kind of just a totally useless suspension because then he could just pick whatever team he wanted to go to, and it was between the Ravens, the Seahawks, and the Bucks. It's geez, okay.
But if he, but the truth is, if he wanted to, if a team wanted him week 1, and if he wanted to play in week 1, like he wouldn't have been able to play for 8 or 9 games, and he wouldn't have been able to collect a salary for that period of time too. So maybe that's why teams weren't signing him. I guess that's a possibility. Maybe they knew, obviously they would have known that he wouldn't be playing for the first 8 games. So I think that might have factored in a little bit.
Just very confusing, because it sounds like you should have just signed him at that point. You wouldn't have had to pay him, and then you would have known he was coming back. Like, I just don't understand it.
No, well, there's a really easy explanation there, because you would have had 8 weeks for an entire organization to hold their breath and hope that Antonio Brown doesn't do something incredibly stupid.
Good point.
So now at least you've cut that time period out. He hasn't done anything incredibly stupid except for a couple, retirement announcements on the internet. Outside of that, he's been fine. And so now I think they're like, okay, he's not going to embarrass us. And if he does, he's only been with us for like a week or two. And so it's not really like that bad of a mark on our reputation.
Cut him and let him go. Plus, I hear he's living at Tom Brady's house. So I guess just watching Tom Brady tongue kiss his son. Let's move on to Tom Brady's old team, the Patriots, traveling to MetLife Stadium. The game opened at -7 to the Patriots. 7.5 now. Most of the money is going to the Patriots. 55-45 split, over under 42. Dude, this game's going to suck. The Patriots looked bad last week. They still covered, but Cam fumbles late in the game. They were making kind of a little run. He fumbles late in the game. Him and Josh Allen hysterically almost had like the exact same stat line, which I thought was just perfect for you, Sia. I thought you would love that.
Josh Allen sucks. He sucks so bad. Like,
remember when he was the MVP after like 3 weeks? I still believe in Josh Allen.
Josh Allen is, I'll tell you this. Ben DiNucci is a poor man's Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen just kind of rolls around the pocket and just kind of flings it and 10 yards over somebody's head. Is that not Josh Allen? Did I not just describe Josh Allen?
You did, but poor man's Ben DiNucci. Like, come on now. Come on.
No. Ben DiNucci is a poor man's Josh Allen. I'm actually giving Josh Allen some credit here.
I see that. You're giving him a lot of credit.
You're
giving
welcome,
him
Bills Mafia.
Fifth string quarterback credit. You're a nice guy. In terms of this game, I don't really want to spend too much time on it. We've been doing the show for a little while anyway. I think the Patriots win, right? But do they win by 7.5 points?
Yeah, probably. By the way, the Patriots should have won the game last week.
Yes.
I mean, I feel
or at
actually
least tied it. Yeah.
Well, at least tied it. But honestly, the momentum they had and the time they had left in that game, I think they were just going to cruise into the end zone, just running the ball. And I have to say this because I know Cam Newton is such a lightning rod for people. Like, a lot of people really like him, but kind of more people hate him for whatever reason. And that's partly his fault.
Stupid hats. Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to.
I get it on some like ridiculous levels. But the point is, there is not a person in that stadium that wanted to win that game more than Cam Newton. And I genuinely, knowing that everybody is hating on him and he's not playing well, he could have led their team. Like, that's not just a win. That they could have won that division if they won that game, because they're playing the Jets twice and the Bills have already played the Jets twice. So they cut the deficit to 2 games. They got 2 more Jets games on their schedule. Like, they had a legitimate path to win the AFC East. I understand I'm not mentioning the Dolphins, but I mean, if we're being serious here, I think the Dolphins have a chance, but just not a great chance. So, I just felt super, super bad for Cam. But back to this line, the Jets are so bad, and they're not doing anything to show that they're A, trying to win, or B, clicking. Like, there's nothing coming from Sam Darnold, who, by the way, is injured again. So maybe it's Flacco, maybe it's Darnold, but there's not a receiver that's flashing. But there's nothing that's Michael P. Ryan looks good, and then they don't use him. And it's Frank Gore again, and it's Braxton Berrios again, and no Brashad Perryman. And by the way, Mims only got a few targets. He had maybe 1 or 2 catches.
Cool catch, but that was it.
Right. And so I'm trying to find something to hang my hat on to be oh, well, they might score 10, 14 points. No, I don't see it. And I see the Patriots just kind of running all over them with Damian Harris, maybe some Rex Burkhead, some James White, some Cam Newton. I can't believe this line is 7, to be honest with you. I think they win by 13 or more.
I mean, and so here, Patriots are 2-5. I think this is the first time they've lost 4 games in a row since 25 years, whatever it's been. That's a little exaggerated, but it feels like it's been my entire life at this point, over my entire life, actually, for that. But they win that Seattle game. They win that Buffalo game. They're all of a sudden 4-3. And I think there was another game in there that they lost. The
Chiefs game, when they didn't even have won that. Cam.
And there was another one, wasn't there?
I'm sure there was.
I feel like there was another that was way closer, and they just kind of frigged up at the end. The Broncos. Then 4th down or whatever it was, or Cam throws that pick. I mean, that's a legitimate 4 wins right there. And they're 2-5. Like, if somebody said alternate universe, they ended up being like 6-1, would you be that surprised? They should have won that Chiefs game, even with those awful quarterbacks. They should have won that Seahawks game. I don't know how the frig he didn't get in the end zone. That was the one good game Cam played all year. Obviously, I agree with you. They should have at least tied and went to overtime, if not won the game last week. And the Broncos game was just a complete anomaly, and they still almost won that game. Drew Lock kept throwing them picks with like 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I mean, yes, I think the Patriots are not good, but usually those are the games that they win. Those aren't the games they lose. So it's interesting. I still think solid shot to win the division. Again, as you said, 2 Jets games, a Dolphins game, another Bills game. I wouldn't be surprised if they win all of them. So
I wouldn't be shocked, but that Bills loss was so gigantic. I mean, that's part of the reason I feel so bad for them. Like the Patriots fans, the fan base, and the team would have sort of been like, this is our division to win if they won that game. And now they're going to be like, well, the Bills are going to have to just start losing, and Miami's going to have to start losing, and Cam's going to, like, there's a lot of pieces that have to fall into place now, whereas they kind of almost controlled their own destiny if they won last week. But I like 7. I don't love it, but I like the 7 quite a bit. I'll be betting it, but throwing the Patriots in a win parlay, I think, makes some sense too.
Yeah, the Jets are bad. But on the other side, if the Patriots lose to the Jets, it's over. We can just declare the dynasty dead, right? Even after all those things I said, where I wouldn't be surprised if they were like 6-1 or whatever. I think we can declare the dynasty dead if they lose to the 0 million Jets, right?
Well, I guess the dynasty is dead anyway, right? I don't know that.
Yeah, but it's not dead until you lose to the 0 and 100 Jets, I think, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying. And yes, the dynasty is officially completely extinguished if they lose to the Jets.
Love it. Write that down.
Yeah.
At Sia and Michael, at Michael Brazil 1. We did say some disparaging thing about Josh Allen. We didn't get to talk shit about Philadelphia, but you know what? Depending on how you look at the election, you might be a big fan of Pennsylvania this year, or like at least today. So funny how that works. A city that I hate, kind of deciding how our country is going to live for the next 4 years. Just interesting.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. You don't know. I don't know
if they matter. At the end of the day.
I don't know. I don't think we're going to know for years. It looks like. Also, not trying to get political, but how long does it take to count ballots? Like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't know. I just don't know.
So little.
Oh, you're a lawyer. Yeah. We can ask you without being political. All right. Sia, talk to me.
Well, it's a little defense of that notion. So there have been more people to vote, both in person and mail-in ballots, ever. Like, this is like the most people that have voted in an American election.
Great job.
So, and when you consider all the mail-in ballots, some of these states, for whatever reason, have rules that they're only going to start counting at a certain time. So you literally have to have like these people sitting down, opening envelopes, checking signatures, validating marks on the thing, and having other people overseeing them, both Republican and Democrat, making sure that that person's doing their job, then registering it, putting in a database so that everybody can see it. So there's transparency. All the while there's a camera on you. Like, these are like steps you have to take. And if there's millions of these mail-in ballots, like, the expectation that it should be done in a day is like actually absurd.
No. Give me
it's right absurd.
Now. I wanted it yesterday. It's bullshit that I have to wait for like 5 more. No, I understand. It is just you think they would have been ready for it. And I know there's some other bullshit involved, and again, not trying to get political, but it's just crazy to me. The one that's craziest, and again, Nevada. What are we doing, guys? There's not that many people in Nevada. I know that for a fact. That's impossible. Everyone decided, screw it. We'll just wait until Thursday, which is my birthday, by the way. So maybe I'm going to get some news on my birthday. We'll see.
I think Nevada is letting some of the sharps, maybe they owe one to some bookies or bookmakers, and they're like, we'll hold, you place your bet, and then we'll turn it around on you. Because before we got on the show, I think Biden was minus 900 and Trump was like plus 450 or something. Like, so if you're a Vegas shark, right, or sharp, depending on how you want to end that word, you tell those guys to hold on to it. I'm going to lay the wood on Trump. And then suddenly, magically, all of a sudden, Trump's in the lead. And I have just quintupled my money.
Yes.
That's very Vegas.
That was one fun thing. Watching the betting lines. Again, don't care which side you're on. Watching those betting lines.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Electric. You said it very well, but it was electric. Watching those lines move, and then Darren Ravel trying to like pretend like he knew what he was talking about. My God, people just dragged him through the streets. That was awesome. Nate Silver right through the streets. It was fantastic. So in case anybody wasn't paying attention, highly suggest check out some of those articles, because it was, if you're just like betting like we do, it was awesome to watch that happen. So that was
and I think I admitted this on my Twitter post, by the way, at Sia and, but I actually took a bet late last night because I mean, I guess I thought there was value, but I was just like, I just kind of want to be a part of this because
Mhm.
I just see the lines like, and by the way, if you don't realize it yet, like the betting lines are probably the most predictive thing in politics for an election. Like that's where you should look. You shouldn't look at Fox News or CNN or whatever outlet you
Nate
want or
Silver,
whatever
yeah.
Washington, but whatever, or Nate Silver. Like look at the betting lines because they are going to tell you what kind of like how things are turning. And it literally went, from overnight from like one guy's minus 400 and the next thing you know he's plus 250 the next morning, and that was happening last night, and I'm like, all right, it wasn't a big play by the way, but I put a small bet because I was like, I just want to say I was a part of this whole process.
It's crazy.
And anyway, so that was fun, man. Gambling is, a lot of states, I think Maryland just authorized
Maryland, Louisiana, and two more. I think DC might have.
DC, I think, has had it for some time now, but the way they're doing it is kind of backwards.
It's kind of stupid. Yeah. I think four states, if I'm not mistaken, said yes. Thankfully, so we party on.
Bet responsibly, of course. I'll tell you.
Listen to us, and you'll probably win money.
Yeah, and by the way, so before we, whatever, we've been doing
at this point, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
So Capper Steve is like really talented, and it's because he's an actual professional. He like does this for I don't know if he does it for a living. Actually, I've never met Cap. Okay, sorry. Okay, I don't want to like call him out or whatever. But whatever. So this guy is like heavily invested, if you will, literally and figuratively. And the cool thing about what he does with his bets, he doesn't just put out the bet itself. He puts out the bet and the units he's going to put on the bet. So for me, I kind of like to do my own research. Like we do this show, obviously I'm tracking everything because tracking things are a passion of mine, but I also happen to bet on them too. So it's really cool because with both college football, which I bet on, and the NFL, now Capper Steve does all the sports for the most part, but just if we're using football as an example, I have games that I already like, and the people that are listening generally have games that they might like. So it's really cool to go onto the sports betting tab of windailysports.com, click on it, and he has a lot of plays like on college, the college day. He just
Saturday puts them last. Yep.
A ton of plays. And it's really cool to see a play that you may have already liked, and he's got like a 5-unit play on it, or a 3.5-unit play. Like, because he, the range is there. Like he might say 1.5 units here, and then the next game he might say that's a 4.5-unit play. And usually, I mean, honestly, when the units are really high, usually it's like a really easy win for the Win Daily subscribers and us who get the benefit of, working for Win Daily and, seeing those picks. So it's really cool. I mean, you don't have to, my point is, we're all sports fans, right? We all kind of track, at least we track these teams and all this stuff. So when you have a conviction and then you see Capper Steve like is on the same conviction, it's like, oh, that's great. And then again, he might be on the opposite team, and there might be a reason for that because you might be the sucker who's on the obvious, favorite play. And he's like, yeah, dummy, those aren't the plays that win money. It's this underdog that everybody hates. And so you realize that because he's got a 4-unit play on it, and you're like, okay, I'm going with the guy that does this for a living. And
a couple of the ones that I remember, he had the Titans for like 4 or 5 units over the Bills a couple weeks ago on that Tuesday night game when the Titans just smashed the Bills. And I think they were 3.5-point underdogs, if I'm not mistaken. They just smashed the Bills. He had like 4 or 5 units on that. And then the Seahawks Arizona one, I think he had 5 units on. So that one was a little hairy, but we got there. It doesn't matter how you win the money as long as you win it. So he's not one of these guys that just puts $10,000 on every single game. Very calculated. There's a reason he does what he does to make sure that we're actually winning money, because you can lose, you can go 1-2 and still come out on top. Like that is very possible if you do the units correctly, like he does. He will very specifically say you're going to put 1.2 units on this, whatever your unit is. For me, it's $10, let's call it. So I'm going to put $12 on this game, and hopefully then I will return 14 or I'll return 7, whatever it is. And that's how you actually build a bankroll. It's not, I'm going to put $10 on every single game and see what happens. It's you actually put the correct amount of money on the right games. You can go 500 and win money. You can go under 500 and win money. It's all about how you allocate those dollars, which I think he does a great job at explaining. So,
and in my understanding, just to clear this up. So when the NBA was going and MLB, was he putting out bets for those sports as well, in hockey and all that? Okay, so
not as much hockey, I don't think. There was definitely hockey. No, I take that back. There was definitely hockey because I remember taking the Wild in a couple of games just because fuck it, it's the Minnesota Wild. Sure, whatever you say, Steve.
Because Michael, and this is kind of just you and I talking. Like I think once NFL season ends, people are like, all right, betting season's over, DFS season's over. And it's like, oh, no. Wait, like the sports that are maybe less popular to you are the sports that Cap or Steve and people like us actually have the edge. You know what I mean? Because we have maybe like certain information or angles that like people really aren't paying attention to because it might be not as popular of a thing to bet on. So don't pack it in after NFL season. I just feel like that's something we need to get out to people, is that both from a DFS standpoint, which we are just huge in, of course, that's how we started, but also from a sports betting angle, there's so much edge to be had post football season.
Yes, especially in baseball, where the Dodgers were favored in every single game that they played in this year, which was hysterical. So you got to love that. Just take the Dodgers, folks. Just take the Dodgers. So I think that's enough. About an hour and a half. We had a lot of fun, as we always do. Just the two of us, Sia. We can make it if we tried. Just the two of us. Where can everybody find you on the internet?
How do you know that reference? You're 19
When
years
my mom
old.
would drive me to baseball practice, she would have to keep the radio on. So, you
know. Second base?
No, right field. Come on, I wasn't that good.
Interesting. Okay. Hey, Glad, thanks for the update. He's updating us on where gambling is legal now. So
Tennessee, Tennessee's legal November 1st. So last couple days. Not sure if Glad, please update us if you have us in the next 2 minutes. Not sure if you can actually bet on the Volunteers, though. It's like New Jersey. You actually can't bet on Rutgers. So I don't know what the hell. Like, okay, you can't. Sorry. Yeah, no. I
thought that was a Vols joke. I'm sorry. It's my
no. Like in the state of, sometimes they don't let you bet on the college team because stuff, I guess. But anyway, Sia, where can everybody find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me as always in Discord, which is for those of you that don't know, that's the Win Daily Expert Chat, which I will be in for our PGA DFS players later tonight, and of course on Twitter at Sia Najad, and on Instagram, because I'm cool now, at Sia Najad Sports, because I'm sporty.
Sports.
Finger
all right. You can find me at Michael Raziel 1. Make sure to follow us at Win Daily Sports. Again, windailysports.com/chat. You can hang out in that expert Discord chat with Sia. He will be there the rest of the night as I am beautifully, wonderfully, just peacefully falling asleep in my bed. I cannot wait for that. Us at Win Daily Sports, me and Michael Raziel 1. Not sure if I said all that already. Season pass $79.99. You get it. The whole season. Everything. Football, baseball, basketball, whatever the hell's coming back. Esports. We crushing esports. We won money. We win money on soccer because it's kind of a joke. I don't know what took so long, but it's really easy. We do all of that stuff. So you get it through the end of the Super Bowl, which is fantastic. And I think that's about it. So Glide, not quite sure on the Vols thing. So that's something we'll have to double check on. Probably not. I feel like there's like one team in a state, they're probably not going to not let you vote on it, right? Or like, bet on it. That'd be stupid. Anyway, for Sia and Najad, for the Win Daily Sports family, for myself, we hope you make it a very profitable week 9 in the NFL.
Sports.